Hello, welcome to the Bitchuation Room. My God, what a heinous week. And here we are getting through it together. Frantifa, mount up. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me, your host, Francesca Fiorentini, on another Sunday evening or whenever you're listening to this. We've got a great show for you today. And by great, I mean also sad. So if anyone needs to cry, we will put you in a separate chat, which is just a place to cry. It's just we press pause, and instead of taking a deep breath, you just deep sob. And I feel like that's the point that we're at in this country. Also, rage. We have another room. It'll be the rage room. Everything is fire retardant. So feel free. Burn shit down. It won't burn. Yeah. Anywho, that also is the Senate, also known as the Senate chambers. Just kidding. I believe in nonviolence in theory. You guys, we have such a good show. We're going to talk, obviously, about the mass shooting in Uvalde. We're going to get through it's just the roller coaster of a week that it's been in terms of the trickling of information, the lies from the cops. Who'd have thought? The cowardice of the cops. Oh my God. And a lot of other things that prove that we don't actually need cops or guns. And in addition, we're going to talk about the elections that have been rolling. We haven't done a lot of that on this show, so I'm super happy to have Dave Weigel of the Washington Post. He's going to be joining us a little bit later on, as well as LA mayoral candidate Gina Viola is with us. Gina is a progressive running on a Green New Deal on a housing for all platform here. She's one of a few Democrats. Also, Representative Karen Bass is running, as well as billionaire mall lord Rick Caruso, who might be running ads on this show right now. I don't know. Who's to say? I know that Gil Cedillo is running ads on a lot of my videos, and I want everyone to remember to vote for Eunices Hernandez. Thank you. But anyway, that's going to be good. We're going to get into it with both of them, talk about what's coming down the pike, why it does matter, even though I don't think any of us have faith in our elected officials anymore, but we're working on it. And then we will have a bonus episode, again, for all the patrons who are so wonderful and generous, part of the Frantifa, patreon.com/bitchuation room. You get to access all of our bonus content live, and then after the show, if you listen back, you get your own special little RSS feed. And so Nato and I, comedian Nato Green is here at long last. Nato and I are going to be talking about another mayor, Eric Adams, in New York, and taking a very different tune and tack after the police failure in Uvalde. Apparently, cops need more PR. And that's really what they're lacking. It's just like good messaging. I know what you're thinking, like, we'll do better. Oh, that's so hard. That's so hard. So definitely stay tuned for that. And also, we'll have a final fun segment where I want you to brainstorm, what is the Senate doing now that it's on Memorial Day recess? If you're listening as a podcast, you're missing all of my fluttery cross eyes, because that's just this moment is just fluttery cross eyes of a country, and my little Trumpian hand motions. And if you are watching live right now or you're watching back, make sure to like and share the stream. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. And if you're on Twitch, what up? I hope you are like subscribed. That's right. I hope you're joining and you're becoming a member of the Frantifa over on Twitch. You get access to a bunch of emotes. It's super cute. And also, if you guys want to show off your pride, we've got merch, bitchuationroom.com. We got 2 different types of shirts. We got stickers. We got tote bags. Very cute. And also, if you guys miss me in the middle of the week, you don't have to, because I do a Twitch show on TYT's Twitch, twitch.tv/TYT, called the Twitchuation Room. Funny. And it's actually very fun. And usually Ramona makes an appearance because we need extra cuddles and kisses when it comes to the moment that we're in from our furry friends. So with that, I want to bring in my guest for the hour. He is a union organizer, a dad, and a comedian. Please welcome at long last, Nato Green.
I have one question, Francesca.
Yes.
What the fuck?
I don't know, dude. I've been trying to.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with being like a settler colonial country. I don't know. Are you talking about the country?
Just in general.
Just white supremacy.
This is a choose your own adventure. What the fuck? I'm in a good mood today because it's Sunday in San Francisco, and it's Sunday of Memorial Day weekend in San Francisco is Carnival, and I love it. I watch the parade, and we talk a lot in this country about sexual identity and sexual preference, and and the range of different permutations and possibilities of identities.
Sure.
And when I go to Carnival, I am reminded that my sexual identity, like my preference of like what really gets me going,
oh no,
is
Nato's back with his kinks.
Samba dancer and gay circus performers. That's the sweet spot.
But not the same thing. Not like a gay samba dancing circus performer.
What? Just something in that Venn diagram.
See, that's how you know you were raised in San Francisco.
Yeah,
your sexuality is so wrapped up in like weird circus performance,
right? And lowrider culture.
And lowrider culture. Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I was born this way.
I know. This is just how I came out.
No, it's not. Definitely nurture over nature in that instance. I mean, samba dancers are hot. Like, honestly, they can move it.
They can move it. So it was a good time. And also, Carnival in San Francisco allows me to add to my my forthcoming photo album. I'm gonna do a coffee table book called "Butts of the Police Department," where I just take pictures of cops' butts, and so that's
I like that.
on. Yeah,
and rank them. I think that's no one would buy that. Number one,
no one would buy that. It appeals to neither Blue Lives Matter people or defund the police people.
Nope.
It appeals to a demographic of no one.
It's just for their wives.
Yeah.
And spouses to compare.
Yeah.
But I like how you go there and then you've just been scoping out police ass the whole time.
Well, they're just standing around, so it's like, oh, that cop seems really into his own butt. That cop is feeling himself in the butt department.
Oh my God. That is about as useful as cops are. And I like at this point, like I am very convinced, and I don't know if you guys have a friend who became a police officer who's listening. I mean, not the police officer yourself, but just the dumbest guy I know from high school went on to become a cop in my hometown. The fucking dumbest guy. And I feel like that is borne out this week through this mass shooting and the ridiculous lack of response, that not only are they brutish and violent and racist, but cops are cowards and they're dumb, dude. They go into policing, I'm sorry, because they have a 2.2 GPA and they want to fucking retire at 40. That's it. That is why you become a cop. Sorry. And like maybe you like domestic violence and you like to slap your like lady around a little bit and not get held accountable. They're dumb and they're mean. And I don't have to don't at me about you got a good friend. I don't care. All right. The majority.
He had a hunch. He cracked the case with a hunch.
Exactly. Look, if you got a good friend, submit it to NATO's coffee book. Take a picture of his ass.
Take a picture of his butt.
We'll honor him that way, and then he can fuck right off, or she. But let's.
It's a he. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, honestly. Okay, so I'm not really bitching about anything except for everything. And I feel like this week it was very mask off of what this country actually is and stands for. And that is the murder of children, the lack of political accountability, and a sinking feeling of cynicism and ineptitude. But we can change that, guys. Let's get into it. I just spit on my microphone. I didn't write anything for what happened this week, you guys. That was what Nato was bitching about.
Yeah.
I didn't write anything for this week. Ray Liotta died. That sucks. Ellen had her last show. Yay. And Biden did an executive order on police reform that, get this, tracks police brutality for the first time in the year 2022. Like, we'll have a database. It might get rolled back, but there'll be a database. There'll be a database of all the times that your dumbass cop friend didn't properly investigate or fucking brutalized you at a peaceful demonstration. Anywho, for everything else, God damn it, this is the week where. So there is only one main story this week. An 18-year-old shot up a school in Uvalde, Texas, using AR-15s that he purchased on his 18th birthday, which was just a couple of weeks ago. He killed 19 children, all of whom were about 10 or 11 years old, 2 teachers, and was then killed himself, but not after an hour and 18 minutes, 78 minutes. He was in this school. And there was a lot of talk in the beginning, like, why did this happen? You know, what must have happened? Oh, he must have hurt somebody. Da, 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 da. It turns out, no, there was actually a lot of lying in terms of how much the cops actually apprehended him on his way into the school. He entered the school pretty much very chill, very calm. There appears to have been, maybe he shot at a couple of police officers, maybe not. I've seen actually conflicting accounts of that on his way in. But the main thing is that he himself barricaded himself into a classroom. Cops then later say, oh no, we barricaded him into the classroom. Okay. And then they sat there for, again, 78 minutes and did nothing. And a lot of people were asking why they did nothing. What the fuck what was happening? And here was a law enforcement. This is the Texas Department of Safety. This is a representative who initially came out. This is on CNN, where he explains why the police waited so long and what they did and did not do. Why did they actually wait before they broke down the door?
But don't current best practices, Lieutenant, call for officers to disable a shooter as quickly as possible, regardless of how many officers are actually on site?
Correct. The active shooter situation, you want to stop the killing, you want to preserve life, but also one thing that, of course, the American people need to understand is that officers are making entry into this building. They do not know where the gunman is. They are hearing gunshots. They are receiving gunshots. At that point, if they proceeded any further, not knowing where this suspect was at, they could have been shot. They could have been killed. And at that point, that gunman would have the opportunity to kill other people inside that school. So they were able to contain that gunman inside that classroom so that he was not able to go to any other portions of the school to commit any other killings.
Okay, so you heard in there, well, people need to understand, what if they had shot us? No. I know he was in a classroom with dozens of kids, many of whom were calling 911 and struggling to breathe for their lives. But what if us? Then get past us, then other pew pew, and I what?
Yeah, I mean, what I love about his statement is that basically he's saying, like, no, this all went according to plan. Our plan was for him to kill the children in one classroom so that he didn't kill the children in the other classrooms.
Yes. No, we wanted the kids to be dead.
We didn't like those kids anyway.
Yeah,
They were on their phones too much, calling 911 during the school day.
and
You're
can't
supposed
have
to
that.
put your phone away during the school day.
Just the fact that they had it out to call 911 is evidence that they weren't paying attention in class. Oh my God, I feel like they might say that. So
yeah. Quiet coyote, everybody.
So, okay. Meanwhile, by the way, a couple corrections. One correction on what I just said, breaking down the door. They didn't actually break down the door when those 19 police officers were waiting. Instead, finally, when they got BORTAC, which is Border Patrol security, which had more tactical equipment and they could do a dynamic entry, quote unquote. You know what that dynamic entry was, you guys? A key. They used a fucking key. After 78 minutes, no, they didn't use a battering ram. They didn't have to break anything down. They used a goddamn key. So they actually didn't have to wait. Mind you, this is what the SWAT team looks like in Uvalde. They have a major SWAT team. They spend the city spends 40% of its municipal budget on the cops. It's a city of 13,000, and that's how much money they are spending. And so, okay, they said, no, we wanted to protect ourselves because what if we shot and we scared and I just peed myself. Meanwhile, straight up, a little girl testified to slathering herself in her classmates' blood in order to play dead so that she would not be shot by the killer who was in there, once again, for 78 goddamn minutes. Meanwhile, how were police treating frightened parents outside of the school trying to get in? Here's one example. Here's how they were treating them.
Yes, I do. Get across the street because I'm having to deal with you. Get across the street. Get across the street. We have other stuff to do.
We're gonna back up, or you're gonna walk into that gate and get him.
So there they are yelling and shoving parents who are asking if they can go in themselves. Here's a Uvalde mom says she was actually handcuffed and nearly arrested while imploring law enforcement to enter Robb Elementary during Tuesday's shooting. She said that she and other parents were waiting outside the Texas school, encouraging law enforcement to act as the gunman raged inside. As her calls grew more urgent, U.S. Marshals handcuffed her and told her she was being arrested for intervening in an active investigation. Yes, we are actively doing nothing. She says they were doing nothing. They were standing outside the fence. They weren't going in there or running or anything. She also said that she saw a father get pepper sprayed and another got tackled to the ground. One law enforcement had shot and okay, so this is before they actually did finally. One law enforcement had shot and killed the gunman. Gomez described seeing police use a taser on a father who was approaching a bus to pick up his child. This is all stuff that is trickling out. If you used a fucking taser on a parent, and this is perfect proof. I'm sorry. The cowardice of cops. They are so fucking brave when it comes to unarmed people. Unarmed people, people of color, oh my God, they love it. Oh, they're taser, handcuffs, wrestle you to the ground. Dude with an AR-15, ooh. Let's wait for BORTAC to give us the key.
Why did BORTAC have the key?
They didn't. That was their strategy for getting in.
Wasn't it in Texas where they had wasn't there a killer robot that they had? Didn't the police have?
Oh, in Dallas.
Yeah, where they had like a robot dog to do something.
I thought they disarmed a bomb, I believe, when there was like a shooter who targeted police. But there's definitely robot dogs. There's everything. I mean, this is all kinds of weaponry. Send in a fucking robot dog.
Look, Francesca, I want to offer a different perspective about this mass shooting, if I can.
Yes, please.
So I know that a mass shooting in an elementary school that kills a bunch of children, to us as Americans, seems tragic. But I want to suggest to you that it's actually a form of privilege. Hear me out. Both you and I have spent a fair amount of time in Latin America. And if you've spent time in Latin America, where there's a lot of violence. The idea that you would murder a bunch of people just because you're like a fucking incel or something, how indulgent. You know what I mean? Like if you're an armed sociopath in Latin America, you get to be like a colonel in the secret police. You get to genocide like, like villagers blocking a dam project or something. You know what I mean? Like you don't just waste bullets on children in a school for no reason just because you're an asshole. Like you're part of a program. There's a plan. Do you know what I mean?
All right. No, them shits are expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's the other thing. You're like, these guns, they're $2,000 a piece. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, you could buy a top of the line mattress for that.
Absolutely. Or like a tank of gas. No, it is very sad. Obviously, the shooter, no surprise here, had a history of harassing women both in person, online, death threats, rape threats, all kinds of threats, and just par for the course on a lot of these folks, and the gender-based violence that they perpetuate. A little bit more on everything that's been going on. I wanted to show you, this is also from the Department of Public Safety, a spokesperson, not the person who was in charge that day, and he even says it, but he's basically saying, yeah, we fucked up.
The incident commander inside believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach at that point. That's why BORTAC was requested on the scene as soon as they were there. They executed a search, or at least a dynamic entry, and went in. And of course, that was not till 12. That was not till 12:57. With the benefit of hindsight. Hey, stand by. Hey, stand by. Right? I got it. Okay. Hey, from the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now. Of course, it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, I think I've heard this account be described as remorseful and empathetic and like emotion in his voice. I don't hear that at all. I hear a fuck ton of defensiveness, but also, hell, good on the first person in law enforcement in Texas admitting there was a mistake. I don't know, the tiniest little Texan salute, little cowboy hat off to you, sir. Woo. So they knew what they were doing was fucking wrong. NATO, has this imploded your understanding of a good guy with a gun?
Yeah, well, I mean, this week there was also that story from West Virginia. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Where a dude showed up with an AR-15 at a birthday an outdoor birthday party and started shooting at people, and a lady who happened to have a handgun shot and killed him. So to me, like, the lesson is there is no good guy with a gun. There might be a good woman with a gun.
Thank you.
And that's why I support the right to bear arms for women only.
Guys, if you know,
Problem solved.
If you've seen any of my stand-up, I have an entire bit on mass gun women and how we need them ASAP and how quickly we would get gun control if more women went into the NRA conference and did what needed to be done. God damn it. Because there was an NRA conference actually this weekend in Houston, in the same place, obviously, that not the same place, but the same state where this mass shooting took place. And interestingly, something different happened, and that was massive protests. So that is the chance of vote him out. And who are they talking about? They're talking about Mr. Greg Abbott. And Greg Abbott, he had the decency to not show up in person to the NRA conference, but oh boy, did he speak. So listen to his excuse for why this massacre was able to take place. Let's take a look at what he had to say. This is the governor.
There are thousands of laws on the books across the country that limit the owning or using of firearms. laws that have not stopped madmen from carrying out evil acts on innocent people in peaceful communities. In Uvalde, the gunman committed a felony under Texas law before he even pulled the trigger. It's a felony to possess a firearm on school premises, but that did not stop him.
Sir, with the AR-15 pointing it right at me. It is illegal to have a gun on school premises. Oh, you're not going to stop? Well, now I'm going to do nothing. No, I won't go in. I'm going to wait for Bortak. Like, he didn't stop. He's doing something illegal. There are children dead. Yeah, I know, but he was... that is amazing to me that you would like. Not only did Greg Abbott just give the most weak sauce excuse for why this took place, like, well, we already have laws, but he's using it as an example of why he doesn't need stricter gun laws, why it's okay that he lowered the age to buy something like an AR-15, as if you should even have that option when you're 21, but why he lowered it to 18. And it's like he's throwing that up. So essentially, he is saying gun laws do work, just didn't work in the way that in my mind when I collected my checks from the manufacturer, it was supposed to go down.
I think mass shooting, what Greg Abbott is saying is that mass shootings are the of children in school is the only form of abortion he supports.
Yeah, the late term.
Extra late term abortion.
I mean, but look, we say that in jest, but like, when does someone shoot up a NICU or like a fucking maternity ward at a hospital? Are we going to separate which lives mattered then and which didn't? Like, no, they don't care. They actually don't care about babies. They don't care about people. They're not pro-life. And we know this. So here was, if that didn't, I'm sorry, Nato, as someone who has kids yourself, go to school, I want to just play you a compilation in addition to Greg Abbott's massive amount of excusing of the behavior of his lax gun laws and what they've led to. Here is a compilation of Fox News hosts, pundits, doing the most to not blame gun control for this massacre. Here's what actually needs to happen instead of tightening gun laws.
I advocate always for an armed security guard.
Armed school safety officer.
Armed deputy.
Arming teachers.
Potentially arm and prepare and train teachers and other administrators.
Armed school staffers.
Bring in policemen.
Training the students themselves.
Retired military, retired law enforcement. We can offer them tax breaks.
If you give law enforcement the opportunity to impose martial law, we can guarantee safety and security.
Securing that perimeter, providing a ring of steel.
You have the fences, you have the main administration building, and then you have wide gaps on either side. The fencing's not very high.
Where the door's locked. Bulletproof glass.
All of these shootings have happened at the same time that we see religion and Christian values and Judeo-Christian values decline.
Okay, that one of those things was not like the other. We have securing the perimeter of Judeo-Christian values.
Feels like a good time to the whole thing reminds me of the great comedian Jackie Kashian's joke about Republicans wanting to simultaneously arm teachers and cut their pensions. And how's that going to work out?
This is a voucher good for an AR-15.
Yeah.
In these retailers. That's how, I mean, my brother is a third grade teacher. His kids are this age. And like, I am so angered and gutted at the thought that he would be asked to do this, to like, I don't know. Yes. To arm himself. I don't know. What do they want? Should we, do they want a world where like children are sent to war at like age 4 or 5, starting preschool? They get trained up. They're fucking fighting, killing machines. And then they go to school? We just sort of reverse engineer the whole thing.
You know what? I mean, I've met your brother. I have more faith in your brother than in the Uvalde SWAT team in terms of keeping children safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't. I'm so mad. I'm like, I was look on TikTok. There's a bunch of videos going around that are like, here's how to keep, as a teacher, how to keep your classroom safe from mass shooters, as if there was ever a way to do that. And one of them is like keeping a whole closet empty so your body can fit in there. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck has it? What number? Why wouldn't you? Oh no, that's the body closet. Just in
the body
case.
closet?
Sorry, nope, can't hang your stuff
You
there.
can't put your finger painting supplies in there.
That's really sweet, honey.
I was my kids are in 8th grade, and I was sort of waiting to see how they brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that one of their teachers brought it up in class in like a super ham-handed way and was like, "Hey kids, how did this thing happen? How do you feel about it?" And they were like, "Bad, motherfucker." Like what he was to say.
Did you hear about like the death? And legally I'm supposed to present both sides.
Yeah.
So can we all imagine why this might be a good thing?
Well,
that
and they were
22
like,
people are dead?
my kids have like profiled like who in their school they think would be the shooter, if anyone was going to be the shooter, based on the articles they've read about. They're like, oh yeah, that dude is a weird, pent up, angry guy. Like he's going to pop off.
Oh my God. I mean, for me, I'm like, oh man, I bullied a lot of those kids. I mean, I didn't start it. I jumped on the train, obviously, but no, I can't even I'm like so done with the idea that this is anything but gun control. I'm so done with it. And the last thing, a couple last things I wanted to go over with this is Democrats went on break in the face of this. Senate Democrats are on vacation for Memorial Day. Thank you, Chuck Schumer. So they're not actually going to propose legislation. Some of it, I guess Chris Murphy is maybe on it. Who knows? But a lot of this is being kicked to states. And Beto O'Rourke has been sort of, as much as I feel like he's a little bit of a wet noodle and a lot like he talks like a wet noodle. He's been pretty dope. And obviously he's going up against Greg Abbott for the position of governor in Texas. But he had a very quick, yes, we can solve this. Yes, here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. Here are his 4 solutions.
You want a solution? Stop selling AR-15s in the state of Texas. You want a solution? Have universal background checks. We don't have them. You want a solution? Red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders, which stop a shooting before it happens. You want a solution? Safe storage laws. Those are 4 solutions that have been brought up by the people of Texas. Each one of those has broad bipartisan support right now. We could get that done if we had a governor who cared more about the people of Texas than he does his own political career or his fealty to the NRA.
Francesca, did I ever tell you about my stress dream about Beto O'Rourke?
No, but I had many about Buttigieg, so I understand. What's up?
I had a stress dream once that I had to pull an all-nighter writing jokes for Beto in his congressional office, and I couldn't get him to focus on writing jokes because he kept skateboarding around the office.
That is so funny. That is.
I was trying to write jokes for him for like his campaign speech, and I was like, "Focus, Beto. Put the skateboard down."
My dog's so cute. We should put the dog on the skateboard. And he's so Vanity Fair. Yes. No, I do think Beto became very annoying very quickly, but Buttigieg was the slow burn of the person I truly hated in the 2020 election. So I'm like, Beto gets a pass, and like. Beto's doing this shit that Buttigieg never did, which is, I think, locally be a leader, like work your way through your state, right? In Indiana, like, why are you immediately going from small town mayor to fucking president? Like, do what Beto's doing, man. I mean, obviously Beto also ran for president, but the point is that's where we need help, is in state legislatures and in state government. That's where we fucking need to change stuff. So hats off to him. For at least, doing what a lot of Democrats honestly haven't done, which is stand up and act and be loud and as angry as I think the American public is on this. And with that, we have to move on. We can't talk about how dildos are more prohibited in Texas than guns are, because apparently you're only allowed to have 6 in Texas. So I'm sorry. I want to make California a dildo refuge for anyone who would like more than 6 dildos. Come here. I'll give you help you buy, a rabbit from whatever. What's the place I'm like, I haven't gone in a long time. What's the one in Good Vibrations? Thank you.
Yeah, right. Naturally.
Or the Pleasure Chest down here in LA. And we, throw in an abortion with that coupon and we'll be fine. But anywho, no guns. That being said, I can't. This is so long. We got to move on. We got to talk about how we do make some slow but important change in this country at a time when I think a lot of us, our faith in our electeds is at an all-time low. Let's talk about the midterms. Let's talk about what has been going on. And the person I am so pleased to welcome into the show for the first time is someone who's covered elections for many years, and he is a political reporter for the Washington Post. Please welcome Mr. Dave Weigel.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Oh my God. Thank you for being here. You just got back from Wisconsin? Wyoming.
But I mean, alphabetically, you're basically right. Yeah.
So Dave,
Wisconsin?
Dave, I've been blocked on Twitter by Christine Pelosi and Mina Harris. Am I the real victim here?
I'm not sure if that's legal what they're doing.
Thank you.
It's not going to be legal. Yeah. That's why Elon needs to take it over. So you can read Christine Pelosi's tweets. I've never been blocked by her. I think she did accuse me of being sexist one time, but I wasn't so sexist that I had to be blocked.
Yeah, she tweeted, after the Supreme Court abortion ruling, she tweeted a bunch of stuff denouncing the left for not caring about the Supreme Court and abortion rights. And I just responded with the headline of Nancy Pelosi campaigning for Cuellar, and then she blocked me.
Oh no,
that's harassment. You're allowed to harass me by pointing out factual statements. I did the same thing. No one blocked me, but I mean, it was hard not to write about that when I was in Texas. Hey, does this contradict at all the message that they're sending as a party? The only reason it doesn't is that they assume most voters are not huge political junkies and don't know who Henry Cuellar is, which I think is correct. But if you pay attention, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing that I have to keep on telling my sort of like vote blue no matter who mom who like loves Pelosi. Like, no. And a lot of Democrats in California whose head kind of like their head like breaks a little bit when they have to decide between 2 Democrats. Who? Which we're going to talk about later on. But yeah, let's stick with that election. What do you feel like there was that reliance from, say, Clyburn or Pelosi that like no one, and especially not a lot of mainstream news outlets, sadly, were really going to test them on supporting an anti-choice A+ gun NRA rating candidate who's under investigation like Cuellar?
They did get asked a lot. Really, every week the House is in session, which you're pointing out is not this coming week. She takes questions at a press conference. She got a question every week, and she was getting irritated by it. She actually, the last time she got a question about Cuellar, she's like, "Oh, I thought you were going to ask about the guns, not the." But she just kind of treated it like an obnoxious question that people kept asking when they all knew her answer, which is that she supports incumbents. She's friends with this not even personally pro-life Democrat. And why you keep asking her about it? That's what her role as party leader. I mean, part of this is an idea among Democrats, which has not done a lot for them, that they're better off if they have a broad party and they don't really demand certain ideological concessions from members. Better if they have more members, because they used to have, it was more like 40 pro-life members of the caucus back when Obamacare passed. Remember, they had to add a rider to Obamacare to make do for all the pro-life members. They're down to almost nobody, but they're more committed to being the party of abortion rights, and this made no sense in that context.
No.
Can I ask, Dave? Do you think that question about the Democratic Party's willingness to like impose discipline around particular issues, do you think that breaks down sort of issue by issue, or is there like a broader commitment to not supporting primary challenges to incumbents?
There is that commitment from Pelosi, but I mean, you can hack this. Obviously, you can hack this with money. The big story in Democratic primaries for the last 3 months since they've been happening is big PACs going against either challengers in open seats or supported by members of the conference, or it's going to be incumbents. I mean, you saw Rashida Tlaib is sort of the next target for a lot of these organizations. AIPAC, mainstream Democrats, Democratic Majority for Israel, I should say, which has a lot of this money sloshing around. The party has not put out a statement or a unified front saying stop meddling in the primaries. Quietly, they don't mind the idea of some of these left-wing Democrats losing, because their theory, if you take it literally, I mean, this is influenced by money. The theory is that it's embarrassing to have these folks around and they cause problems. Wouldn't they be better off if Cori Bush just wasn't there, so that when the media was asking people, hey, should we ever say defund the police again, 0 Democrats said that instead of 1 Democrat. It's just a very messaging first view of politics. Also one that says, how few people can we alienate, or how few people can we get against, get mobilized against us with money. The other thing that they're seeing right now is that they can't really control the money sloshing in. Nothing really changed the last 2 years in terms of the law, but the epiphany by people like Sam Bankman-Fried and these donors who have endless amounts of money that you can just put $5 million, $10 million in and change a race. The Democratic response has been, well, what are you going to do? And in some cases, maybe that's good for us if these guys go in and knock out somebody on the left.
I think what's so interesting about the sort of messaging uniformity and the fear that they'll be challenged on any of sort of the status quo is that they're so bad at messaging. And like the 2 issues that we're talking about in the last few weeks, gun control and abortion rights, are the most middle of the road, popular pieces of policy and desires that they've really just let slip. And yeah, maybe they're not the top, 3, but I think we're going to see a little bit of a sea change here in terms of top 3 voter issues. I know things like the economy and healthcare always have trumped, but at the same time, Democrats haven't made it a priority to enshrine any of those things or work on those things truly. And so I think you're seeing that bear out in the news in the last few weeks, obviously. You're right. I wanted to just say $50 million has been spent by super PACs in Democratic primaries this year, more than spent across every Democratic congressional primary in 2018 and 2020 combined. So are they getting more scared of progressive challengers, or what do you attribute? Or is it just like, nah, we need all the help we can get because we don't know what we're doing? Or is it that?
Well, it's mostly the first thing you mentioned. There is a mobilizing against progressive groups that just wasn't there in 2018, wasn't there in 2020. There was a little bit of denial at first. You see this a lot of times. We saw Republicans in 2015 convincing themselves that Trump couldn't win. I'm not comparing the ideology. I'm just comparing the structure of a party is really resistant to imagining anyone overthrowing it. Their instinct is smother it as soon as you can, but it probably doesn't matter. We're going to maintain this. And so the money wasn't there to beat these challengers in 2018 and 2020. I mentioned Cori Bush before. She's somebody who won because national groups just were not paying attention. She won because she earned it, but you did not have these PACs saying, oh gosh, in a couple months there's going to be a primary in St. Louis. We have to mobilize and make sure we crush her, because that stuff's effective. I mean, there is one thing, this money moving into these races. It's Summerlee in Pennsylvania, against Jessica Cisneros in Texas. I mentioned the Rashida Tlaib buy that we're expecting. That's kind of already underway. A commonality of that is these races were not really spending like that before. I mean, even the Cuellar Cisneros race, the money was not coming in to save Cuellar in 2020. And the groups I talked to, the candidates I talked to, they're becoming more realistic about how hard it is to have the money dumped on you. It's nice. It's nice to believe, oh, if we mobilize enough and knock enough doors, we can overwhelm this. But one reason you're seeing Bernie Sanders get more involved in calling this out is he saw how this is pretty effective. He saw the Democratic Majority for Israel. I mentioned them. Their dry run for what they're doing was spending money against Bernie Sanders in Iowa and other states in 2020 and just trying to knock him out. So that was pretty effective. And Bernie Sanders had a very large grassroots campaign. I mean, understating it almost, larger than you get for a congressional candidate. So these groups are realizing, okay, it's nice to believe that we can overwhelm this money with grassroots support, but we're not sure that we can. So we need to call this out and develop a strategy on the fly for dealing with all this money.
Yeah, and then they wielded it against Nina Turner, his surrogate, successfully in her race in Ohio twice. Yeah. I did just want to, Nato, before I go to you, I wanted to go to talk about some of these races because despite the Democratic something majority for Israel, whatever it is, and AIPAC spending all their money against Summer Lee won in Pennsylvania and beat Steve Irwin. And just recently it was announced, I mean, the results came in.
The Crocodile Hunter?
Yes, RIP. No, that would have been a lot tighter of a race.
Yeah.
No, and then just recently in Oregon, Jamie MacLeod, I've learned this, MacLeod Skinner beat Kurt Schrader, incumbent, which is huge. Progressive, again, beating an establishment debt. Tons of money poured into that race in favor of Schrader. So you're seeing some of these squeakers, and then we mentioned Cuellar. Jessica Cisneros is asking for a recount. She is trailing by 177 votes. There's a call out to make sure that every single vote was counted, that people track their ballots. But like 177 votes is, I mean, nothing compared to the amount of machinery that was put up against her. And you think about if Pelosi had you don't even have to endorse Cuellar. Or Cisneros. You just stand back. Just do one last thing for Cuellar. Don't do a robocall
for him. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm interrupting you, because you're talking about what I'm talking about. Yeah, Clyburn did a robocall. Just that effort where people were getting bombarded in the final 48 hours with the leadership of the party saying, "Hey, trust me, don't vote for her."
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? I mean, Dave, you've been talking about sort of the money dynamics of the races. Mm-hmm. You reported that what Clyburn said for his reason for intervening in the Cuellar race was that he thinks that progressive Democrats drive swing voters away. Is that true? One of the things that bothers me about political reporting is not you, but in general, is that after every election, sort of everybody uses an opportunity to declare that the election proves what they thought already anyway. Like every election, centrists are like, this proves we need to run to the center, and progressives are like, this proves we weren't progressive enough and we were crushed by the system or whatever. And no one is ever no one ever comes away from an election saying I was wrong. So it just aside from the money, is it true that the message around that Cori Bush is a liability for Democrats in places other than St. Louis, for example, or that progressive Democrats do in fact drive swing voters away?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's some motivated reasoning here, because Democrats they say it and people print what they say. They believe it. They'd like for these people to go away. They'd like for them to stop making so much noise within the party. Certainly, Republicans say the same thing. I mean, one reason this gets into the feedback loop in the coverage is that Republicans say it's great for them that AOC exists. It's great for them that Cori Bush exists. And it's very easy to scare Democrats generally, but scare Democratic leaders and committees. You put an ad on TV and it has AOC and she looks really scary and she morphs into Democrat X, and they say, well, gosh, it looks like AOC is a problem for us. The instinct is not how do we defend the colleague or spin or do something. But why is this so damaging right now? Because the argument is it costs the Democrats a few seats in 2020. Why, even though all those Democrats are saying they were against defund the police, to pick the one they talk about the most. Why is it hurting now? It's hurting now because just the party in power has not delivered on a lot of what it said, and the economy is in many ways bad.
Yes.
So they're looking for a lot of spin in order to have an economic message that I'm not quite sure what it is. They don't have a message that they want in place of this. They just want these folks to go away, and then TBD economic message will be happening instead of this. It's not how it works. I mean, there is ideological combat happening whether they like it or not. The message of the week I end up covering in politics is often defined by Republicans, and I do think where Democrats and the leadership feel helpless. If they feel like, okay, there's something going on where the left and the conservatives are throwing stuff at each other and we get caught in the middle, but they're really not doing anything to change that story by passing a bill, let's say, or doing one of the things that they promised that have been held up that would make people say, well, okay, for all that rhetoric, at least they delivered on paid family leave, or to name one of 100 things that are stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think that's right. And what's so funny is that before AOC, it was Pelosi. There were all the attack ads on Pelosi. They will pick anyone. And actually, in my mind, the fact that they pick AOC is a reason that they see something that we all see, which is a natural born leader, I think. And Democrats are scared of actual leadership that might challenge their current entrenched stodgy and status quo leadership. I do want to talk about the GOP and then let you go. But so you've reported, obviously, there was primaries in Georgia. Also in Pennsylvania, there's going to be, I guess, another runoff between Dr. Oz and McCormick. So what has, in terms of the Republican side, what have you seen in terms of patterns, in terms of, are we uplifting Trump's picks and his, he's been vindicated, or are we seeing a break from the narrative of the 2020 was stolen election stuff?
Oh, you're seeing some Republican voters get tired of candidates who talk about that and only that. I think that can be a little bit overdetermined because I always start the clock back before Trump was the nominee. There are things that he's gotten every Republican Party in the hymnal talking about that they didn't talk about before him. And some of them, I think, a lot of people on the left agree with. And I was in Wyoming yesterday, as we were saying, and at one point, at several points in the rally, actually, at this big arena, there's a picture displayed that morphs together Liz Cheney and George W. Bush. And the point of that, and Trump brings it up, Matt Gaetz via video brings it up, is the Cheneys are warmongers, the neoconservative wing. They don't say neoconservative, but they kind of say the hawkish wing that want to invade everybody and spend our tax money. That's not the Republican Party anymore. That's an evolution. I don't see anyone winning Republican primaries who says, you know what would be a great idea is sending more money to Ukraine. I don't. Right. That's been happening. But then you also have stuff like, this is the party of building the wall. This is the party of immigration restriction, which it was having debate on before. So there's very little disagreement between the Republicans winning primaries and Trump on anything super significant. I'm not saying 2020 is not significant, but that is kind of a deal breaker for a lot of Republican voters. If you say that Biden won fairly, if you say, but they can look past that if you're with Trump on all the other issues. It's become a very kind of European nationalist style right-wing party. I see that from primary to primary. Almost nobody's winning anything. Even incumbents who were pretty safe before down the ballot are losing these state rep races to people who say, "What have you done for us? What have you done for concealed carry? What have you done for sending National Guard down to the border?" Just the tests that Republican candidates are being asked to pass are all kind of Trump tests. And then you compare that with the Democrats. Nobody's really taking a guidance from Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden of what a Democrat is. Joe Biden endorsed Kurt Schrader, who just lost. Republicans have a figure controlling the party and driving it to the right, and Democrats are just kind of falling over each other, which they're pretty good at. I'm not sure what they're good at right now. They're very good.
It's so funny that you said earlier, like, oh yeah, the Democrats really, anyone who's trying to like take the party over, they're going to be resistant to that. And then you're like, oh, unless you're a fascist and you're running for the GOP platform, then they're like, oh my God, please take us over. We've been trying to say this out loud for a very long time. Thank you. And they did that with Trump. So I think what I hear you saying is, yeah, the 2020 stuff, and yes, Brad Raffensperger and Kemp won their primaries, handily beating Trump-picked candidates, but still Raffensperger and Kemp are passing voter restriction laws that are doing effectively the same thing that will ensure a Trump victory in the future, even if they weren't able to hand him that victory in 2020.
Oh yeah, there are. So we'll go back to February 2021. Kemp more than Raffensperger, although Raffensperger implements it. He's the governor saying, "You're right. There were questions about 2020. We're going to pass this new law. There's going to be new restrictions. It's going to be easier to replace Democratic election officials, Republicans. All that stuff passes. Democrats vote against it, and then in this primary this month." A lot of Democrats, especially suburban Atlanta Democrats, who all said that stuff in last February, voted for Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger just out of necessity. They said it's either them or it's MAGA. It's MAGA guys. But you do see some willingness of Democrats to put up with the overall environment and the overall policies moving to the right and just taking a chance to, well, maybe we could stop this before it goes too long. The point you're making, though, about what they'll put up with is interesting because, yeah, in Pennsylvania, you had the candidate for governor there, Josh Shapiro, the Democrat, spending some money to help the most right-wing candidate win the primary. In Georgia, you did have Democrats voting for, moderate's not a great word here, but voting for the non-MAGA, the election was stolen, Mike Lindell is right candidates.
Yes.
But in both cases, they're just kind of accepting that the Republican Party is moving right. Maybe they can throw up a block from time to time, but they're not really doing anything to move that train off the track. They're just kind of trying to maybe give some advice where the train should go. Put a couple. They're not
It's all
trying
going
to,
in the same direction
yeah, it's
anyway.
still basically going in the same direction. That's the influence Democrats have at
Auschwitz
the
is
moment.
where the train is going.
I didn't say that, but yeah, okay. Yeah.
In terms of Wyoming, then, what do you think about, Liz Cheney's chances? I think there's a lot of centrist Dems that are, and not even myself, who's just like, honestly, yeah, there are shades of Republican, and neocons were awful, but also we never remember that Trump expanded drone strikes by fucking 400%. Hello. They never talk about that. But anyway, I'm like, no, we should have more Cheneys and Kissingers, even though I disagree with them on 99% of everything else. But what do you see? How do you see that race going?
Yeah, that's a tough one to do. What I was just describing in Georgia, just because Wyoming is very Republican. There are very few Democrats there. There are independents who can kind of go 50-50. But that's the entire Cheney survival strategy. There's her opponent, Harriet Hageman, who's endorsed by Trump, who spoke at this rally. There's a couple other guys on the ballot. Their hope is, okay, maybe the MAGA people split their votes. Maybe there's a few people who show up who we can convince, without being too loud about it, some Democrats to come and vote for Liz Cheney. And then maybe she holds on through this election. But that's just about it. And the Cheney campaign is not softening anything. Raffensperger was saying, okay, right, well, I'm gonna look for voter fraud. Sure, fine. She's really gone all in and saying, no, I'm gonna go down with the ship, investigating January 6th and attacking Donald Trump. So her only path to survival is like almost every Democrat in Wyoming. We're talking about tens of thousands of people, literally, that they all come over and they shift the electorate. That is very hard. She has 2 months to do it, but that's that race. Either that happens or she loses pretty badly.
Nato, any final question?
Yeah. I do have a question as we look ahead to the midterms. There's sort of this narrative that people have about midterms that the opposition party tends to gain ground in midterms. My question is why? People sort of act like it's like the fucking tides, but there's some logical mechanics that are behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you have some assessment about sort of what drives that dynamic and the degree to which those trends do or don't apply now.
Well, it's true that generally people 2 years into a presidency, most times, certainly this century, have been grumpy, let's put it that way, about what's been going on. I was checking, when's the last time most Americans answered the Gallup poll and said things are going in the right direction? It was 2 months after 9/11. The last time most Americans thought things are going in the right direction is right after a terrorist attack, when politics was kind of stopped. And Republicans were just kind of getting it where they wanted. Democrats are saying, here,
thank you, Al Qaeda,
Patriot Act, whatever's on the menu, you got it.
The good old days of 9/11.
Yeah, that's a factor. The factor that made Democrats kind of optimistic going into the cycle is just the president's party tends to be demotivated, demobilized, not vote. And they still think, but they thought definitely a year ago, well, look at this electorate. This is an electorate that, the education gap is bad for us in lots of places, but the fact that voters with college degrees, voters who vote in every midterm election, have been moving towards us, that's good. Maybe we've lost some voters on the margins who usually skip midterms, but we can hold on to these guys. We can hold on to the suburbs. That has been a factor for them, and they'll melt down in places they can win 2-1 in a presidential year. And I think they've figured out a lot of that. I mean, there's so much. I mentioned the money being spent on PACs. So much money and organization in Democratic politics. They're not finding those voters. I mean, there are scared Democrats who are going to say they failed at everything, but I'm going to show up in because I need to fight for Roe, or I need to fight the fascists, or whatever your issue is. There's going to be people who think things are pretty bad for me, but I'll vote. I think they probably got more of those than they do in a typical midterm. They'd be just in better shape if people didn't think the economy was rotten and they weren't panicked about inflation. But those are the main reasons. People think things are bad generally. They have for 20 years. And usually it's hard to convince the president's party, hey, well, we told you 2020 or 2016 or whatever was the most important election of your lifetime. New election, new most important election of your lifetime is this one. Yeah. Although I literally heard Trump say that yesterday. This is the most important midterm of your election. If you're tired of that phrase, I don't know what to tell you. That'll be in every election, but the party out of power is the one that's been better at scaring people into saying, this is it. Gotta vote. Yeah.
It's hard because And I think Democrats have an easier time of relying on voters because they know that the option is fascism, and they use that to fundraise. And yet they don't actually, do things to protect, again, most basic rights like abortion rights or like the right to not die in school. And so it is difficult. And as someone who's like a radical, a lefty, I think voting is important, but not precious. And I think people need to, and it depends, obviously, if you're voting in a primary, you're voting in a general, but come general, like, you fucking, I voted for John Kerry, y'all. You guys everyone can do something grosser than that back in the day. So that was the grossest vote I've ever cast. And then we just take the fucking streets. Summer of Rage, y'all. I am so appreciative that you came on, Dave Weigel. You're wonderful. Thank you for your reporting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for breaking all this down. And just like admirers from afar, I've wanted to get you on the show. And
please. I anytime, like, I've been watching news broke, and I've been watching the stuff for years, and I've liked it. So I was really happy that you wanted to have me on. And yeah, I'm everywhere covering these elections. If you need somebody to talk about them, I've probably been there.
MSNBC executives, when my MSNBC special came out, they were like, "Oh, Dave Weigel tweeted about it. He said he liked it," and I was like, "Yes!" And they still didn't give me a show. So anyway,
I'll try to become more influential before the next time I'm on. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Dave. Take very good care.
Thanks so much.
And with that, why don't we? Speaking of primaries that matter and that we should vote our goddamn hopes in order to prevent our worst fears. I want to welcome a former organizer around LGBTQ rights with AIDS Project Los Angeles, a mentor and a board member for the organization Girls and Gangs, and currently running for mayor of Los Angeles on a progressive platform. Please welcome Gina Viola.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Gina, thank you so much for being on. I know you are just off of like a fundraiser and an event. I hope that was energizing and dope. And I wanted to ask you about, your campaign and like what, we're in a time where we're all rushing to say, no, we don't mean defund the police. We don't mean that. Nobody's serious about that. And you are openly talking about it. And tell me why and what that would mean for Los Angeles.
Absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me on. MSNBC can't handle your smoke. So look for a better network. Is there one? I don't know.
I think RT might be available.
Yeah. Oh, they're hiring, dude. No, I'm already on TYT. I got it. I got it made in the shade, kind of.
Your conversation was so great. I started writing down notes thinking I was going to come in at any moment and like interject to everything you guys were talking about. I was so excited. I had so many things to say when I got here. But let's talk about defund the police, because in light of everything that's happened the last 2 weeks, right? Buffalo, Texas Times, right? People are even forgetting that those Korean people were killed in Texas before we had the massacre of children. Laguna in California. I woke up 2 days ago and I said to my husband, thank goodness we're running a candidate. If we were not running a candidate right now, I would be beside myself, because the Democrats are never going to do anything different. So defund the police is about this. That's what this is about. The police state that we're all living under, the state-sanctioned violence, all of this is playing a part into daily culture where we're deciding it might be okay to make schools, with bulletproof doors and armed teachers, and, or that folks can't go shopping or go to church anymore without a target on their backs. And this is a direct result of what we've done with our military budget at a federal level, and then our policing budget at municipal levels. Yeah. So it's not far-fetched. We have no problem defunding education. We have no problem defunding mental health services. We have no problem defunding, rehabs. We have no problem defunding anything except the police. We have to take a good look at that. Speaking of Los Angeles, the LAPD's budget has grown 52% in the last 10 years. No other line item in the city's budget has seen that kind of increase, right? And there are 50 law enforcement agencies in the county of LA. So we're just talking about one. We're just talking about one. So when I say we live in a police state, I'm being very serious about that. And white people in particular have been very supportive of state-sanctioned violence against people of color and poor people. And this is why I'm running. I'm running to interrupt that process. I'm running not as a Democrat, not as a Republican. I'm running as a full, true outsider to interrupt that.
And I mean, so you're running as an independent, is that correct?
I'm no party preference is my
no party preference.
Yeah. In Los Angeles, your party doesn't really matter, which is why it's so funny that Caruso changed parties, because it doesn't even matter with our jungle primaries the way we do it. But supposedly LA would never elect a Republican, but I would argue that there's a whole ton of Republicans in our city council right now. Democrat in name only.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned his name, Rick Caruso, who again is poured $23 million. This was as of a month ago.
39.5.
There you go.
39.5.
Who's counting though?
Yeah. Ethics.
Exactly. God. He's a billionaire developer. He charges you $8 for parking when you go to the Grove, or any of his.
But now you get a lawn sign with your $8.
Oh, that's adorable. I swear to God, every time I pass a Caruso sign, I'm always like, I'm going to kick it. I'm going to take it away. And then
I'm going to get blamed for it if you do.
I know. I was just like, no. And you're like, but he is so ubiquitous. He's everywhere. And he's trying on June 7th to basically sweep the prime or the essentially avoid a runoff.
It's not happening. The undecided has been leading this race from day one. The undecided actually grew after the mainstream media showed you only the 5 candidates that they believed were running. The undecided number went from 40 to 55 after the second televised debate. So that's who's leading this race. And my argument is they're not worried that Caruso is going to get 50% of the vote. They're worried we're going to get 50% of the vote. And what they want is a showdown between Caruso and Bass, because both of them will keep the LAPD whole.
Well, I mean, so we know Caruso sort of bad faith saying he's going to end homelessness by sweeping up all the homelessness. Cool. But tell me about Karen Bass and some of your critiques of her,
Sure.
And what she has turned out to be and what she hasn't turned out to be.
Right. So, Caruso could have solved homelessness 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So he's not running to be mayor to solve homelessness. He's running to be mayor to grow the LAPD. Make no mistake about it. So we'll just say that. But Karen Bass is a product of the Democratic Party. Like that's, she was my congresswoman. I liked her as a congresswoman. Truth be told, I really wasn't paying much attention now that I think about it, because now that I've actually gone back and I'm looking more at her voting record, I'm like, this is interesting, because I used to go to her town halls. I used to sit on her phone calls. So I was very supportive. When she got into the race, I endorsed her immediately, went to her website, click, and then her houselessness policy came out. And I was shook, because I have been on the street doing mutual aid with my unhoused neighbors this entire pandemic. And the one thing I know does not work is criminalization of the houseless. It does not work. And it's costing lives, 5 lives a day. And every time we do these cruel sweeps, people die. Like 2 people died 2 weeks ago after the Little Tokyo sweep. So, I saw that she was going to leave 4118 intact, which is the making it illegal to sit, lie, or sleep anywhere in the city, pretty much. And it's a criminalization. It's so if you don't want to take the crappy services they're offering you, they can scoop you away and put you in jail. So I was out. I was looking everywhere on her website for the unendorsed button. I'm like, where is it? Where is it? It didn't exist. and then her public safety plan came out, and we all were in movement space together. We were shook we couldn't believe that not only would she keep the LAPD whole, that she would grow it, right? She would grow it. And I'm like, if you were paying attention to what's going on in this city in the last 10 years, like there's just no way you can say the words Black Lives Matter and grow the LAPD.
And she hasn't been. I mean, I think that her Bass tacking to the right is a complete misread of a young, growing voter population that was out and very loud during the 2020 George Floyd uprisings. And I know you've been endorsed by Melina Abdullah, you know, of BLMLA, who has been so pivotal here in the city. And it just shows me that like Washington truly is like you lose touch, you get complacent, and she is and look, and I'm not saying that like fucking yes, there are tons of Republicans in this city, but you want to energize a voting base for a mayoral election, and especially on June 7th when maybe, you know, the voter turnout might be lower. You don't do it by saying, oh yeah, no, more police, more cops.
Yeah,
like
again, it's the Democratic Party. They're just as beholden to the LA Police Protective League as the Republican Party is. And that's the truth of the matter. Yeah. And when I saw that platform, that's exactly when I knew that this was going to be the reality and that we had to run a candidate.
And that's you.
And it's me. And it's me. So here I come, this, you know, who is this white lady running for mayor, saying defund the police. And it's me. I've had to learn how to be forward facing, public facing. It's so unreal to me to run into people and tell them like something that happened to me yesterday. And they're like, yeah, I saw it online. I'm just like, oh, this is crazy. My whole life is online now. But truly, it's about deciding, like for me, I don't want to live in a city that can't say Black Lives Matter. I don't want to live in a city that isn't like down with Black Lives Matter, that Black Lives Matter isn't part. And frankly, I don't think you can win a city like Los Angeles without Black Lives Matter behind you anymore.
Of course.
And that's a bet I think they're hedging that they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So it is time for true change. And what is super hopeful is there's 20 progressive candidates running in Los Angeles for a wide variety of seats.
Yes.
Right? City council, city controller, city attorney, state assembly, Congress. I mean, we are everywhere. And I'm predicting a clean sweep. And you will actually have some folks that will get in there and make some change because let's face it, the Democratic Party is never going to take care of us. If we could not get single payer health care in California, when we have a super majority, the Democrats have a super majority up in Sacramento, we couldn't make that happen in a pandemic. The Democrats are never going to give us health care. Never.
Newsom, you know, he'll remember who he was one day. He'll remember.
When he runs for something else and needs people who want, you know.
And he needs to say Medicare for all again.
Right.
Oh, God. Gina Viola, please tell us your website and how to support you and your work.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. It's Gina, FORLA.com. That's our website. I mentioned Caruso's number. I didn't tell you ours. We've raised $42,000. Nice. And we outpolled a sitting city council member who was running for a year and a half and raised millions of dollars. We tied a city attorney who got in the race first, right? He was running for 2 years. 2 years. These both have dropped out. They've since dropped out. Also, a millionaire who put $4 million of his own money in, Ramet Varma, has dropped out. So, I've said this for a while, like, it's not about the money. It's about the voters. We need people to vote for us. So vote your values. This is a primary. Karen Bass said herself on the debate stage with KCRW, nobody's getting 50% in this primary. So she said it. She said it. So vote your values. You know, I think what's happened for me in this, which is so beautiful, is I will never, ever again, as long as I live, hold my nose and vote for somebody I don't want to vote for. I will not. And I will sleep better at night because that, for as horrible as I knew Biden was going to be, I wish he was only that bad. So, and again, I don't even blame these people personally. This is the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Well, I'm personally glad that we have a progressive candidate like you in the mayoral race, Gina, and we need you, and we're going to keep needing you, as well as the city council members who are running, and hopefully will also win their races. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And
thank you for having me on. I'm a new fan. I love this show.
Hell yeah.
I'm so entertained.
Yes, definitely come back. And yeah, good luck in June. And obviously, if you're in LA, early voting already started. You've got your ballots. I'm mostly telling this to myself. Send it in, Francesca. Let's do this.
Come on, do it.
All right. Take care, Gina. And thank you all for sticking around. We've got one more segment. Nato and I need your help to answer the question, what the hell are senators doing on their vacation? Here it is. National Lampoon's Senate Vacation. I don't know a lot about what the senators are doing other than like removing all the mirrors from their, summer homes and their lake houses. But I also have this feeling that like Schumer is just eating grapes. That's all Schumer's just like, oh, these are good. Some of them are, this one's a little mushy. This one's not mushy. This one went to the market, and this one went wee all the way into my tummy. Like, they are doing nothing. They are holding their grandchildren, happy that their fucking grandchildren go to private schools, which they believe falsely are insulated from mass shootings, but which they're pushing a whole privatization agenda in the wake of the Uvalde shooting as well. So they're just holding their rich grandchildren and eating grapes and are like, thank God that my kid isn't dead. And if my kid were dead or my grandchild were dead, thank God, because then I would actually have to do something or make it look like I was trying to do something. Nato, what do you say? What are our senators doing on vacation?
Well, if you've been following the news today, what they're very busy focused on is getting Paul Pelosi off of a DUI.
What?
Yeah, Paul Pelosi got nabbed on a DUI, and Nancy Pelosi's husband. And so he has
I was going to say, is that a son? Is that a
PP?
Yeah, where was he? Where was he pulled over?
Let's see here. He was in Napa, California wine country, doing some wine tasting, having some of the.
We know exactly where they are then.
The cabs, the Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe a
Cab Franc,
a Zin that Napa's known for.
I mean, honestly, first of all, wine tastings will get you drunk like no other.
Yeah. No,
but
I mean,
that is very also like Napa roads. It's like, what are they, 35 miles an hour, like one way? Like, when are you getting arrested? Like, how did you get your DUI? He must have like backed up into like a farmer's market or something.
Right. Like literally everyone driving in Napa County is driving under the influence. Like no one is not a little bit faded in Napa County.
Yeah.
So to be too drunk for Napa is like,
very
wow. That's like, and also, given like at a wine tasting, you're, if you're at a winery, you're getting a few ounces, right? Like, so if you're getting shit housed, like, what are you doing?
I'm reading, Willie Gus says, Stent Hoyer topless in a Ferrari.
Nice.
I mean, obviously there's an eyes wide shut Republican orgy going on.
Poor Matt Gaetz not getting invited anymore.
No, wrong little.
Who was
wrong
I thinking of?
Douchebag.
Which douchebag?
Madison Cawthorn.
Madison Cawthorn was the one who wasn't getting invited to the cocaine orgies. My bad.
Well, he just the first rule of cocaine orgies is zip, zip, zip. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they don't deserve rest. They don't deserve. And I will say, I just wanted, before we bounce, for everyone who's feeling kind of a little hopeless, I do think that organizations like Everytown are really trying to get folks involved, just like we've been shouting out Liz Winstead's organization, Abortion Access Front, this summer. But basically, put your senators on fucking speed dial. Call them every day. Get to know their operators and secretaries and people who work with them and their staff. Join Moms Demand Action or Students Demand Action chapters. Join an upcoming volunteer event in your community. Sign up to make phone calls with the Gun Sense Action Network. Join the summer series to take weekly actions. This is from everytown.org/act. Y'all, it doesn't have to feel so grim and so dark, even though it is. But we can do something. So I want to thank y'all for being here. But Nato Green, God damn it, where can people follow you?
People can follow me at Nato Green on Twitter, Mr. Nato Green on Instagram.
Sweet. Follow him for a good time. What else?
Or some very wonky discussions of public policy.
And he has
food picks.
He has 2 albums, but his most recent album is called the Whiteness Album. You can get it on Bandcamp.
You have to get it on Bandcamp because there's currently a kerfuffle between the comedy industry and Spotify. So a bunch of comedy albums got yanked off Spotify. So if you want to fuck with my albums, head over to Bandcamp.
But Joe Rogan's all about that. Like, he's getting on that. He's going to help. Don't worry.
He's gonna take care of us.
Yeah. Nato and I have 10 more minutes. Bonus content. We're talking about Eric Adams and the worst take, perhaps, from a Democrat after the Uvalde shooting. Eric Adams is at it again. Nato, thank you so much for being here, and take good care. And thank you guys for sticking around. Just a few comments from the Cry Room and the Rage Room and whatever other room chats I've devised here. Matt Gates, thank you so much. Matt Gates on a Ford Bronco, thank you so much for your, I'm just going to call you Matt Gates, for your super chat. Says, if strippers fighting to unionize doesn't make Republicans pro-union, nothing will. Just include male strippers to secure the Lindsey Graham vote. Ooh, Lady Graham. Robert, thank you for the super chat. The cop says the quiet part out loud. That guy had a gun. We could have been killed. Cops are not here to protect us. They're here to control us. Yes. They're here to enforce the color line, the economic line, and defend racial capitalism. That is what they're there to do. We've been over this. Matt Gates, thank you again on a Ford Bronco for your super chat. Says, one psychologist I heard viewed the failure at Uvalde as a lack of discipline and duty. Healthcare workers and soldiers swear an oath and train a long time with the same group. Stupids and cowards weeded out. Yeah, I mean, there is a higher bar to do so many jobs than there is to be a cop. And I said this, I think on the Twitchuation room actually, but Carlin sort of saying you need like empathy and intelligence. Like, we don't test cops for empathy and intelligence. 2 basic things. Parker says, thank you for doing the show on a Memorial weekend. Thank you, Parker, for the super chat. And Progressive Boomer Dragon, hey, Franny, here's a little love for you. Love right back. Thank you so much for the super chat. David Ko says, I'm sure there's a way we could stop the copy poos from being scared of people having automatic weapons. Just can't put my finger on it. What would it be? Fingers on the trigger or not. Keith Somerville, why not just arm all the children? I'm sure the gun lobby would support legislation that mandates small arms training as part of the K-6 phys ed curriculum. It worked for Hitler. I mean, that's essentially what Gina was talking about. We're headed to a police state. This is what they want. They're like, oh no, you're taking away all of our freedoms. What about my freedom of speech? We don't like big government. Now, let's have a cop in every fucking school, in every single classroom. Let's have armed guards. Let's have bulletproof. Nobody wants to live in that police state. Nobody wants to live in that militarized society. That's bullshit. That is anti-freedom. Apollo Racer says, in terms of the elections, that's why we need to get money out of politics. Tired of special interest groups buying the government. That's over on Twitch. Thank you, Apollo Racer. On how to be a Republican, JP on Twitch, I believe, says pretty much belittle Islam and then hold the Bible upside down. Honestly, I'm very curious as to whether their attempts to unseat incumbents, progressive incumbents, Dave Weigel was talking about Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, is that going to work? Can we say, what about unity? Oh my God, what about incumbency? Is that going to have the same ring to it? I don't know. Francesca needs to bring up farting around because I have to thank all the good people. Here we go. The fart song. So, quick note, we don't have any patrons at $10 or more. And I'm so sad I could fart. There it was. We have a lot of $5, so thank you guys so much. But please, up your pledge to $10 a month. You make this show happen. Literally. Thank you to the big tippers. Robert G. Huge shout out to you. For the Twitch subs, Grandpa Dragon 1953, Clue Pack, Hunger Games 1989, Mina Michelle, Sirius Biznies, Late Bloomer 66, Mac Alistair 1, and Bama Raider 12. Thank you guys so much for becoming, for resubscribing or subscribing on Twitch. Thank you to everyone who works on this show, to Paige Oamek, Maximillien Inhoff, and Alexandra Ornes. We stream every Sunday, 5/8 Eastern on YouTube and Twitch. Follow the show on Twitter at Bitchuation Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Franny Fio. A little programming note, next week, I's getting married. So we will have a pre-recorded show. That's right. I didn't forget the show. We're having a pre-recorded show for next week. So stoked about it. It's going to be great. And the following week, which is June 12th, I will not be here. I will be away on a honeymoon. Trying to get pregnant. JK already got pregnant. So there will be no show on June 12th, but there will be a show next week. So thank you guys so much. And remember, fight the power. Fuck the patriarchy. And don't just bitch about it. Be about it. Summer Rage. Bye.